Hi guys, Black here. I got a story to tell you all. Y'all ready for this? If you don't like my stories, especially when they involve alternative relationships, you may want to stop the video now. If you're still here we go. Okay guys, when I was young, every so often, I would wake up in the morning and my underwear felt as if someone blew their nose with them. That's what my underwear felt like. The inside of my underwear felt like someone had blew their nose. And, it was slimy and, cold. It will always be cold, And I'll be like, what is this stuff? I had no idea where it was coming from. It never occurred to me that it was coming from, the sausage part. But, well, actually, I guess I knew it was coming from there. It couldn't came from nowhere else, right? But I didn't know what it was. Okay. So one day, I've heard the word wet dream before. I separated the words to keep the yellow flags off me. Anyway, I've heard that word before, but I always thought it meant a person peed in the bed. So one day I was in school, I was in class, and I heard a friend of mine said something to me about he had a wet dream last night. And I was like, you peed in the bed? He's like, no, man, I didn't pee in the bed. I had a wet dream. And I was like, well, I thought a wet dream was you dreamed about peeing in the bed or something. And he's like, no, you don't know what a wet dream is. And I was like, no, what's a wet dream? So he told me, and I was like, that's what that is? And he was like, yeah. And I was like, oh, hell, I had those all the time. And he was like, well, you need to, relieve some pressure. You need to pleasure yourself. And at that time, I didn't know how to pleasure myself. Every time I tried, in the morning time you wake up and you have that hot cup of coffee and it just will not cool off no matter what you do. Well, actually, I didn't have a problem with it cooling off. It would, as soon as I tried to pleasure myself, it would go down on its own. Well, anyway, I'm looking at a guy riding a hoverboard. I love to see people ride hoverboards. And he is getting ready to go across the speed bump. That is amazing. That's amazing. He went across the speed bump like he was walking. But anyway, getting back to this. So this same friend, I think his name was Mike. Mike told me to think about having a relationship with the female. At that time, I hadn't had a relationship with a female, so I didn't know how to do that. So he told me to, well, imagine that you're having a relationship with a female. So I tried that. That didn't help. So Mike told me, he said, what hand do you write with? And I said, my right hand. He said, try it with your left hand. And I was like, my left hand? He's like, yeah, can't hurt. So I tried it with my left hand, and of course it was awkward, but that was the key. I was using the wrong hand. Is there a word for that? It's a person who write with their right hand but pleasure themselves with the left hand. Is there a word for that? Anywho, after pleasuring myself, and I remember it took a minute to get to the promised land. I remember I was tired. And it was sore. My member was sore. And yes, I think I did use a lubricant. I think I did. I was having relationships with other guys. but not women. Okay. Okay. But I wasn't reaching the promised land with these guys. You know, one particular guy, a guy named Jerry, not going to call his last name, but it started with a P, ends with a Y. Anywho, no, it's not Petty. Close though. Jerry used to reach the promised land. Basically, he would slick Rick me. Now, if you don't know what a slick Rick is, leave a comment and I will tell you. It's a simple word. I don't like to say the word because if you Google the word, it's something, you know, that would get me a yellow flag. So that's why I don't say, I just say slick Rick. Anywho, Jerry used to slick Rick me all the time. And he used to reach the promised land. Okay, one day I asked him to let me do him and he didn't want to do it. So I told him he wasn't going to, well, I told him I wasn't going to do it with him again. So finally he decided to let me do him. And he made me stop before I could reach the promised land. So the next time I told him that, you know, I wanted to do it longer, you know. So he let me do it. And I remember I was, you know, doing it. And it started to feel like I was becoming paralyzed. Now, I heard some people say it feels like they have to use the bathroom to go number one. I don't remember that feeling. I didn't get that feeling. I've never gotten that feel. Well, no, I didn't get that feeling. At first I did. To me, it just felt like I was becoming paralyzed. It felt like it was hard to move. And I remember a friend of mine, that same friend, Mike, he told me that to him, it just started to feel good and he just don't want to stop. But me, it's like I didn't want to stop either, but it was like my body was going, I was losing control of my body and it wanted to stop. Or better yet, it just felt like I was paralyzed. Okay. Well, anyway, when I reached the promised land, it was, of course, amazing. Jerry did not appreciate it at all. But the funny thing was, he had been doing me like that for months, you know. So anyway, he was not very happy. You know, he was like, man, I ain't never doing that again. I ain't never doing that again. Yeah, whatever. Once that had happened, he didn't like being around me no more because I wanted to do it with him. So he didn't like that. Well, I had another friend. I don't want to call his name. I saw his brother a few months ago. I was going to upload the video, but for some reason I didn't. But anyway, this friend, his name starts with a T. Not going to say his last name. Ends with a D. Starts with a, nah, I ain't going to do that. Anyway, this friend, his first name was T. We'll just say it was TR. Anyway, TR, 4 letters in his first name. I need to quit that. I need to stop that. All right. Anyway, this friend is married with kids, living in another city. Anyway, he and I used to mess around, right? It was like creating vacuum. We used to also do the parking in garage thing, but his Ford Ranger could fit in my garage, but my F-150 would not fit in his garage. Anywho, I told him I did the slick Rick thing with him. He wasn't long enough to do a slick Rick. You know, you don't have to be really, really long, but he wasn't long enough. So anyway, I did the slick Rick. And it was, what do you call it? Back to belly. That was position. Anyway, I remember I started feeling like I was becoming paralyzed. But right before that, he told me, you know, he was bored. You know, he wasn't getting anything out of that. So he was bored. And he was like, man, you know, whatever you're doing, you need to hurry up. And the funny thing was, this guy T, his brother and I used to do the exact same thing. Now, his brother knew that I was messing around with T, but T didn't know I was messing around with his brother. Is that not crazy or what? But anyway, I finally reached the promised land. And T was not happy with that. He was not happy because he had been fertilized. You know, his crotch area was quite fertilized. So he wasn't too happy with that. But I was extremely happy. I remember I couldn't move. You know, I was like laying, we was on the couch, I think. And I remember he was like, you know, get up, man, get up. I got up and I had to sit down, you know. Anyway, so T didn't care much for that, you know. But he had a choice. You know, the only way he could park his little F Ranger in my garage was he had to allow me to Slick Rick. I had a friend named R. I told y'all the story about that. His cousin wanted to kill me because he thought that I had forced myself on Rico. And I went to school together. And Rico and I was in the same class. And I think I told this story before. He used to get excited in class and would touch me on my shoulder and point to his excitement. And Rico was a real skinny guy. So it was easy to recognize that he had a third leg. Real easy to recognize. And I'm going to tell you something, the boy had a third leg. I mean, Rico was probably, he wasn't as thick as I was, but he had probably twice the length. Easily had twice the length. But anyway, he ended up going to a tractor pull. We ended up going to a tractor pull or something. Because my father was supposed to went with me, but my father, the night that we was going, he didn't want to go. So I ended up calling Rico. And so my mom, we went to pick up Rico, and then we went to the tractor pull. And on the way home, my mother was somewhere. So we ended up catching the bus home. And then my mom took Rico home. When we was at my house, it was the first time Rico had ever been in my house. And I remember, you know how it feels when you have friends that have never been to your house before and they come to your house and it feels kind of weird. Not bad weird. It just feels kind of weird that they're in your house, you know. So that's where it was. And we didn't do anything. I mean, I knew, like I said, he would show me his excitement, but I didn't think he was like that. I just thought he was, you know, I mean, if I had a freaking 6-door F-150 with a long bed, I would probably show it off too, you know. As a matter of fact, he used to show it to a lot of people in class, and a lot of people, you know, didn't mind looking at it, you know. He probably had the biggest, you know, truck in the school. I mean, class anyway. But anyway, we talked on the phone sometimes, and you know what? Actually, I think he did come on to me that night. I think he did come on to me that night. I think he asked me had I ever, you know, been with the guy. And I told him that I didn't know guys could be together. You know, I mean, I knew in the back of my mind because, you know, I had been there, but I had to act stupid in front of him. But anyway, I got to go to work.